Hello everyone. Today I'm going live after a long gap. I am Shweta Agarwal from Hardcore Street Collective and I'll be live with Sunil Sippy who has recently launched his book. Hello. Hello. So he has recently launched his book, The Opium of Time, and we'll talk about that book. Hey. Hello everyone. Thank you for joining. Sunil is joining me very soon. Hi.
Hi, Shweta.
How are
I'm
you?
I'm good. I'm good. Excited. It's been, gosh, when was our last time
Last
together?
a year back.
I got to
More
keep my
than
here to see you properly.
you look tired.
I am tired. You'd be tired too. If you, my house is full of books, making labels, packing books, tracking numbers.
So how's it going?
It's really good. It's really good. Really exciting.
How's
Really.
the feeling of post
Hmm?
launch? How's the feeling of post launch?
It's a daze. Everything is a blur. But it's been amazing. It's been an amazing experience. But it's yeah. If I look tired, it's because I am tired.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. I am with Sunil Sippy and
Can
he
you?
has books The Opium of Time, which is with me right now. I am the lucky owner of it. So
So am I. Can you see
it's
me
not
properly? Do I need to?
so
Yeah.
tell me, how did it start?
Ah, it's funny because I think the as a book, you never think it's very hard to think about a book when you're making photographs. I feel, especially as a street photographer. As a street photographer, the joy is in the shooting. You know, the joy is in being on the street. The joy is in interacting. The joy is in that's where the meditation is. That's where the joy is. That's where the what I call healing is. It heals our spirit. Just being interacting and being on the street. That's where the that is where the real joy is.
Yeah.
Then the idea of a book came about in 2000 and maybe 18, in the beginning of 2018, right? So that was when I sort of started I was still shooting, but I started the process of going into my archive and trying to pull out pictures, and say, okay, this is, but the hardest thing was it took a number of years to find structure, because so the project of the book began in 2018, but I was continuing to shoot. I hadn't stopped shooting. I was still shooting, and I'm still shooting. It's like, that doesn't stop, but the idea of the book began in 2018.
How did it
And
happen? What made
well,
it happen?
My friend Colston, the photographer, he met me some years earlier, and he loved the work, and he said, "You have to do something with this." And sometimes I curse him. I'm like, "Why did you get me started on this? Why did you do this? I was so happy, just making pictures. Now I've got to think about a book, Um, so he was the one who initially sort of really egged me on to think of this work in a more serious way. So I started that process of there are so many stages in the making of a book. First is, okay, are there pictures that are worth anybody's time, that are in your archive? That's number one. Number two, um, how are you going to sequence these pictures, or is there any story that you're trying to tell? Is there something about the city that you're trying to say? Otherwise it's just a string of pictures. They're just a string of images. What difference does it make to anybody? So then when I started looking at it, so one of the things that I talk about quite regularly is the fact that this was, even though the pictures were made over a 10-year period, I wasn't trying to say, oh look, here is a story. Sorry, I have to keep my glasses. I have to, the thing is that it's not like I was trying to show a city that was changing. you know. In fact, I was looking for an ageless city. I was looking for a city that wasn't, you know, that felt uh, I don't know, sort of separated from time in some ways, you know. That it wasn't going to be a story about, oh my God, look what happened in 2010 and look what it looks like in 2020. That was not what I was trying to do. That was one thing that I was very clear about, you know. So that was part of that was one thing that there was some clarity in that. But then how to make sense of these pictures? So I was putting dummies together. I was making sequences, and then I must have made, Shweta, I swear I'm not kidding, 7 or 8 dummies, you know.
My God.
Yeah, between 2018 and 2020, 2021, no, 2020, really, I must have made 7 or 8 dummies. I was trying different paper, I was trying different formats. I was saying, gosh, in a book, you know, the gutter comes here. How do my picture's a panoramic. How is that going to sort of, how am I going to make this work, you know? So I started the journey, you know, so that was the sort of first stage, just making these dummies, then realizing that there needs to be something more. And then, you know, I think all of us really had such an amazing, you know, a lot of us had time in lockdown to reflect, you know. So it was during lockdown that I really started working on a flow, on something that made, you know, that made sense. And remember when we met last time, I'd gone to Varanasi and I just printed that little what I mean, I call it a zine, you know. I made that little zine and I said, and that was, you know, it was a small thing. It was a gift that I was making for people. It was not a commercial thing. It was just me trying to go through the experience of shooting, editing something, printing it, and then seeing, and then literally I got an opportunity to see mistakes, to see how something, you know, was going to be once it became into a print form. What were the shortcomings, the importance of a cover, the importance of paper. All these questions were sort of addressed when I had done that little project. It was like a little experimental project to teach me something, you know. So that then, it was really in lockdown that I then spoke to Ankur Tiwari, and I had, what had happened is I had started to sequence the work in a series of sections. So there was the street, there was the monsoon, there was the industrial city, there was the city at night, and there was the sort of what I call the entertainment section, the entertainment that you experience in the city. So I broke it down into these sections, and then I had asked Ankur to write some poetry, you know. And then that was what really kind of was binding it together, you know. So then then some structures started to form. Then I was at the stage of, it was starting to really find form as a book, okay, by then. And then I realized I was out of my depth. This is too much for me. So I spoke to Padmini Mirchandani, who's a publisher, who I had done a diary with in 2011 called the Mumbai Diary. And that was my first sort of collection of street work. And she really helped me with a lot of sequencing. She helped me with bringing some form to it. And then she really encouraged me to add my own writing to the book. You've got the book. Have you read all the text?
I read the poems.
But the text, my text, you haven't read my text. You evil person. Well, the thing is that the text, you know, you've seen me posting on Instagram for years, and I tend to write quite a lot, you know. So people were quite enjoying, seemed to quite enjoy what I was writing in my posts. So I literally went back into my archive of posts, and I started trying to pull out bits and pieces of stuff that I'd written over the years. And then I had to craft like how I felt at a particular time and create these kind of diary entries. But basically what I discovered, and I know this, you know, people don't read photo books really. They like the pictures, they don't read. So you have to be very careful with how much text you put into a book, you know. If it's very text heavy, I think firstly, okay, I think it's really good to have text in the photo book, but you have to be very clear about why it's there. And if like there are so many that I've read recently that elevate dramatically. The books elevate completely once I've read the full text, but you have to be very careful because a lot of people don't look at it,
Like me.
like you, yeah. So this was the broad journey. So Padmini actually had pushed me to write the text, to say, look, it's fine to have all these pictures, but people need to know a little bit about your story. They need to know a little bit about your journey, So that's why I'm very happy that I did write the text.
So what was the most challenging thing which happened during this making of the book, which you could get?
I think it's really lovely to be on a street photography platform because I think making pictures is one thing, but printing pictures is a totally different experience, and I discovered that printing black and white was very challenging. Now remember, the pictures are made over 10 years, so sometimes I was working with film, I was working digital, I was working medium format. They were all different formats, and trying to create a balance, in the look. You're shooting at night, you're shooting in bad light, sometimes you're shooting in good light, sometimes so to try to get, now on your screen the picture looks fine, but the moment you put it onto paper it changes, and then how does it balance with the next one? So I think the pre-processing of the images, and that link to the choice of paper was one of the most challenging things, to get black and white to print the way I wanted it to. Now you felt the paper, it's a thin uncoated paper, it's almost like, it's slightly newspaperish, isn't it?
Yeah. My sister was asking me why the paper is so thin.
But did you like that?
I like it going with the book, actually.
I feel that it really made people really connecting with that feeling. I think so. That was one part.
The grainy effect.
Yeah, it's a mood. It's an overall mood that reflects how I was seeing the city, and I think that complemented the imagery as well. And then, of course, then the next, really, really, which you'd never believe would be so hard, was the cover.
I want to ask you why you chose this picture.
Oh, the picture. Okay. Well, okay. So there's the picture, and then obviously how we've created the fabric, the linen, the printing, how we've done that. But the picture was a picture that I had made in 2015, and that particular spot in Bombay, I would, as I say, with a lot of my photographs, they're places I've visited hundreds of times and made pictures hundreds of times, which is also where I'm not even discussing how difficult it was to edit the pictures and choose which one you're going to choose. But I would have shot through that window maybe 30 or 40 times in color, at night, on film, on digital, on this or that. Why? And I remember when I made this photo, I was part of Focus Festival in Bombay. That was in 2000, I think it was the 2015 festival. And I was working with someone on a show, and she loved this image as the title image for that show, and I didn't agree. I didn't accept it. I chose something else, and later, as time wore on, it turned out that she was right, and that photograph really was was a very strong picture that had captivated people. And see, that was 2015, so the city looked like this. But then basically, it's a window for me. It's a window into the city, and I think the book is like that. The book is peering into the city. The book is a window into the city. So I felt, and I literally, it was very hard. We made a dummy, and it was sitting on my table, and and I had to leave it there for like 3 weeks, and keep wondering, okay, why am I choosing this? And my eye would keep getting drawn back to it, and drawn into the window, and looking through and seeing those buildings in the distance. And to me, it was sort of emblematic of the work overall. Do you want to show it? That's the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you, do you have any favorite shot in this book? Any favorite
uh,
shot which will you will never forget to?
I wanted you to choose your favorite shots. I have so many, you know, I have so
But
many.
no,
I'll
one.
tell you, I'll tell you one of the most impactful shots that I feel it's, I have many. This is definitely one of my favorite pictures in the book. Okay. It's kind of crazy.
This is
Um,
one of my favorite shots.
yeah. And there's one more that I absolutely love, and that is also this. It's a very indirect sort of relationship with Bombay. You know, it's like it tells you it's a port city. It tells you
Yeah.
in a very non-linear way, you know?
And the way she's looking at you.
Oh, the way he's looking. And you know, you can actually, a friend of mine has this in her house, a 60-inch print. But I also see, I mean, even the, you know, the cops, there's a kind of rhythm in the
I love the angle, the contrast light.
yeah, this was actually at Ganpati, and the police would stand on a much higher level, and we were much lower. And so I was looking up and shooting them. You'd never get that angle, you know.
So which is
Um,
your favorite focal length?
Most of this book actually was made on a 28, and then this
Okay.
is one of my special. Yeah,
Ah, I love this too.
yeah. So I was shooting probably from 2010 to literally from the beginning of my journey until maybe 2016, 17. I was only shooting with one lens. I was shooting with a 28mm all the time. It was the only lens I owned, actually, you know. And then now I tend to shoot with the 35 now. And much
Why,
less 20. Huh?
why that change?
I think I'll tell you what happened. Somewhere in the journey, in when I began, I really loved the wide angle feel and getting in close and pulling, you know, and getting these sort of contextually kind of fairly dramatic frames. But as time wore on, I felt maybe I needed a little more intimacy, just a little bit more intimacy, and the 28 made my perspective very grand and created a lovely backdrop for everything. But that little bit of intimacy, it was either I was having to be too close, or you know, and it was too intense. So there was something just slightly more intimate with a 35 lens, I felt,
Right.
you know.
I'm enjoying the 35 mm.
The 35, yeah. It's just, you know, it's in the middle. I mean, I never, you know, it's hard to imagine that Cartier-Bresson really shot with a 50, you know, because
But
you don't.
he started using 35 later.
But I think 50 was his favorite focal length, from what I understand.
Okay. So the workshop with that photographer Alex Webb,
Alex Webb,
did
yeah.
it help you with the book?
You
Some
know, not my book specifically, but he taught us. I mean, it was a 10-day workshop, and it was very intense. You know, we were shooting a lot. We were, you know, we were making a lot of work. But every class, he would take us through his books, and he and Rebecca would talk a lot about their book making process. So we had editing classes. But he would really talk quite a lot of detail about the making of his books. And I think also over there, I really learned the separation between a book and a exhibition and a print. You know, like there are all these different um, vehicles for expressing your art. You know, and just because you've made a book doesn't mean you have to have an exhibition at the same time, which doesn't mean you have to do that. You know, it doesn't. It's just it's they're different mediums completely. You know. So I learned a lot, but it was not a bookmaking class or anything.
So do you like this negative medium like film, or you like digital?
I look. I mean, honestly, that's such a well, I say tricky question. I think I have to be very honest and say I prefer color in film. You know, and I tend to prefer black and white in digital for some reason. Like
Why?
I don't know when I shoot. when I shoot, like all the work in the book that's color is film. It's either 4:5 or medium format 120, right? But there's no 35 millimeter. I think there might be one 35 millimeter image in the book, but you can't really tell. But the thing was that the color rendition changed dramatically when the work was on film. I had just a different feeling with the color, but black and white, I found that it didn't. I didn't see any change. There wasn't a marked change. It was more film is for me is more about process. It's more about the speed at which you shoot, the way you shoot, and I think funnily enough, when you shoot a roll of even 35 millimeter black and white, even if you do that, whatever, I think I have this very strange relationship feeling that your strike rate's better. You're more in the moment. You're more connected to your environment. You can't look at a screen. You can't, you're less distracted when you shoot film, I feel.
Yeah, you are.
You know?
So tell me about this picture.
It was 2019, and this was not actually a time. I remember I think it was June, and I was walking along Chowpatty, and the rain, it was really dirty, and there was this. It's very, very odd because actually, if you look at the size, I was shooting on a wide. I think I was probably on a 28, or I might have been even wider. I might have been on a 21, but I remember I went in so close because that statue was like this big, like it was tiny. You see that it looks like an eagle. That's a normal crow.
Yeah.
It
looks like an.
But I went in. I just found. Firstly, I didn't know any crow was coming. I was just walking on this beach, and I saw this sitting there, and it was just looking so sad, And I went up very, very close, and I got on my knees, and I really went in close onto it, and I just sat there for a while, and then suddenly this crow sort of swooped in, and sort of I've got many pictures of the bird actually just sitting there, but I just loved this thing with one foot off and 1 foot on,
Yeah. So for how long you waited for the shot?
Not that long. Maybe 10 minutes. Maybe not. It wasn't like I was waiting there for a very long time for it to happen. It just happened. I just was down there, and I happened to be in that position, and it happened, and it was really. I was kind of. This picture unsettled me for a very long time, and I remember posting it on Instagram and feeling quite anxious about it, and the response was just insane. People really. I don't know if like is the right word. It's I don't know if you find it disturbing. I don't know if it's I don't know what emotion it evokes, but it evoked an emotion. Does it evoke an emotion?
It is a very strong shot.
Yeah,
and it's going with the black and white actually.
Yeah, I was a bit sort of, when I thought about it, sequencing wise, it came up so early in the book, but it was an arresting thing to get you into the story, into the flow. One very, very early picture. This is 2012, and when I was really at the very beginning stages of my journey, and I was in somewhere near Maratha Mandir Cinema.
Okay.
And I was just walking down the street, and this group of boys just were going crazy, and they were just the way they were moving around and everything. It was crazy, and I just snatched this moment. It was just literally, I was very lucky. I didn't have too many shots, before they disappeared.
I love this shot. I don't know why.
Yeah. And I remember I used to title this photograph Joy. Back when I'd made it, and some people said to me, I don't see the joy, but I remember these kids were so joyful. They were so happy, But that was so that was that again, I was, look, what is our joy is walking streets and wondering if you're going to get gifts, no? If the street is going to give you gifts.
Right. So tell me about this shot.
Again, one of my real early favorites, 2013, and it's on Whirly Sea Face. This is actually right before the Sea Face,
Really?
which is yes, a lot of people don't believe it. So basically, now you've got the coastal road being built. You've got, and literally about a year after I made this picture, a big thing was built in front of the house, you know, and you could no longer access it. You can no longer access this house. The house is there, but you can't access this place anymore. Like it's all been built up in front of it, you know. But the way these two girls were standing there, I feel they were dressed for a wedding, you know, and there was
Yeah.
such innocence in their expression, you know. I don't know if you can see it on that screen, but I'll try
Yeah,
to.
they're ready to go somewhere, you know.
It feels like a wedding, and their expression. I don't know if you can see their expressions, you know. There's so much grace and innocence in them, isn't there? I mean, I feel, you know,
It is.
you know.
And I love the white version. I'm I'm very happy that it's not color because you can feel the emotion here.
Well, that's a funny thing. What's your relationship between black and white and color? How do you feel?
So it evokes emotion, the black and white, and the contrast has to be, you know, perfect.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
contrast is not there, the black and white will not look.
Well, also it separates out a lot of other information that can,
Uh,
and it's just there's a relation, there's a reason why people shoot color, and I think color works incredibly well. But I've never, as I was saying to people, I don't know, I've always had a hard time with color in Bombay, and I see people like Suresh's work, Nanganathan, you know, who shoots so much color. Even Felix, who's here. I mean, I see so much color in their work, and I find
okay.
they're so able to city in color. I've had a very hard time seeing city in color for some
You
reason.
don't crop your pictures
So that's a nice, big, controversial question.
like
I
this. You could
no,
have cropped this part.
no. I do for the book. I've done a lot of cropping on the vertical spreads. Quite a lot of the vertical spreads are cropped, you know. So I made a decision that in making a book, you see, we have to wrestle with this line, okay? Always. So sometimes I had pictures where the line would come right through the center of something, you know. And like, I'll give you an example on two pictures. There's two spreads that I like, which are beautiful, which I find to be really lovely. This was actually a double spread picture, and I feel like I should have kept it as a double spread. But so in the book, I've done cropping for certain formatting, right? But here, this spread are sort of two crop pictures, you know. Where I've you know done a very very dramatic cropping there in this, and I've enjoyed. I don't feel pure about that thing. I think a book is a different form. I could present the same image as a print in a different form. I feel that we have that freedom as artists to do those things. I think, you know.
Right. So tell me about that.
Well, I don't know if you saw the video, but you know this couple lived across the street, very very close to my house, and I'd go to this gentleman's house like so often I would go, right? And when I made that photograph, that was 2010, right? Yeah, that was 2010. And this gentleman and his wife, they were so sweet. They invited me actually into the house, and I chatted with them for a while. And then I would go back every few months. I would go and make pictures. And then one day I went back, and his wife was no more. She'd passed away. So I
Oh,
started taking pictures of him alone, you know. And I would still go back. I would go back regularly. I would go back all the time. And then literally one day, Colston and I went out shooting, and he was shooting some video of me on the street. And I went up to the window again, and I got this lovely moment where I got to shake his hand, and it was caught on video, and I made another photo of him. And he was just a very, very lovely man. Every evening he'll sit at his window, you know. He'll talk to me, I'll go and shake his hand, you know. Very sweet, you know.
So Akshun is asking, how can I get this book? Seems very
The
interesting.
book is available. Unfortunately, I'm starting to work out about international shipping, but locally, it's only available locally, and you can get it from the link in my bio on Instagram.
One of my favorite shows.
Yeah. So this again, you know, this was 2010. So this was what? How long? This is now 12 years ago, right? And I was walking, it was monsoon time, and you know, the city was different. There were no barricades, there was nothing stopping you from getting to the seawall, you know. And there were these 4 or 5 divers, and they were just going bang, bang, bang again and again and again. And this was very early in my photography journey, and I was not such a serious street photographer in many ways. I was just really at the beginning of my journey on the streets, and I shot hundreds of pictures of this, and you know, it was so long ago that I lost all those images. I lost the drive. I lost, you know, and I eventually had only 2 files from that day, and that was 2010. Yeah, 2010. And it's, you know, I've never seen that again. Now it's especially, you know, it was interesting because I lived in Colaba in those days, and the attacks had happened in 2008, right? And the security had been beefed up, but still at that time we were able to get to that wall and photograph this. And I couldn't, you know, how they would dive into that rough sea. It was magnificent watching this. It was like a circus, you know.
So was it high tide that time?
Yes, it was a pretty high tide.
The waves were very high.
So rough, Shweta, and they were like, and they would just go one after the other after the other after. There must have been 4 of them just going like non-stop, you know.
So you like monsoon of?
You know, it is a very it's a very expensive proposition to shoot in the monsoon because I ruin my cameras, right? That is a very special photograph to me that took me a very long time to.
Where you shot this?
This is on Marine Drive.
And which camera?
This was on a Leica monochrome. It was a black and white camera, the monochrome, right? And I was definitely with a 28, and I was right in there. It was pouring with rain, you know, and I damaged the camera. I had to send it to Germany. It was literally in 2015 June. I shot so many days back to back in the rain, and I totally destroyed the camera. But it was completely worth it, Shweta. I sent it back to Germany. It got fixed, and it came back to me, and I got 4 or 5 absolutely magnificent photographs on that in that time. You know, yeah. This one is really special. Huh?
People can never forget this shot.
Yeah, and it prints up beautifully, and I think it's a very special one for me as well. Yeah. Yeah.
I love this.
Huh?
I love this one.
Now there's a series of these. So this is the thing. Darukana it's a dramatic place, right? But you know, I went there in 2011 or 12 was my first visit, and the shipyard was very busy, you know. The 12, 13.
I've never seen it. I also visited.
And you don't see it busy like this, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, so by 2015. Huh?
We're allowed to shoot
Of
there?
course you're not allowed. You're not allowed to shoot anywhere.
Then how you managed?
Huh?
How you managed it?
This is the thing, you know, and you know, since we're on a lovely street collective, sort of hardcore street collective platform, I think all street photographers, you know, I think the greatest joy is invisibility, you know. And how you achieve that stealth, how you achieve invisibility is your own style, you know? You can be tall, you can be short, you can be fat, you can be thin, but I think your body language says so much, you know, and it does so much. So I got very close. I got in. Nobody troubled me. You know, eventually, sometimes in these sort of things, you get kicked out, but that's okay. You know. Are you
Wait,
noting questions
hold on,
down?
hold on.
There's a lot of
Can you
questions.
please tell me about your relationship with the streets? How do you capture the people without intimidating your subjects? How do you manage to keep
I
that?
think I'll tell you one of the really important things when you're on the street for me is patience and waiting. And once you're sort of on the street, chosen a spot. See, sometimes you snatch something, you steal something, it happens very fast, right? But quite often you're sort of hanging around, you know. And when you're hanging around, people start to get comfortable. Either they're smiling at you, they're looking at you, somebody does this, somebody does that, but they sense your presence. They know you're there, you know. So I feel that you have to get that sense of comfort with people around you by being present, right? And let them understand that you're not doing anything mean or harmful or anything. And then they slowly drop their barrier, they drop their guard. Some people really like to be photographed, some people don't like to be photographed. And I always say this, Bombay is an amazing place for this. We're very lucky in Bombay, you know.
Right.
People
So,
like photographed in Bombay, you know.
so, like, what was I asking? I forgot. Oh God, I missed. I don't know. I was asking something. I forgot.
Yeah.
So, what lens you use there?
Which one? Which?
Prepare.
Again, all 28. Most of this was 28.
That is also monochrome. Or you
Yeah.
converted.
Story of this picture, which I took a long time to get into the book, is one that I would actually like to tell. It's not. It may not sometimes seem like the most dramatic picture, but this was such an interesting story behind it. Shall I tell? Should I talk about it?
Talk.
So you know, in the book, in the book in the introduction, I talk about my accident, right? And I lost the heel of my left foot, and this was
Right.
in 2012, and that's what actually got me on the street. And on this day, I'd gone to, this was in Bombay Port Trust Road, just like up that same sort of area past Darukhana, same line. And I was in a shooting. I'd gone there in the morning, very early morning, 6:37. Light was just breaking, and I was walking, and I wanted to get these JCBs looked so beautiful against the sky. It was a monsoon sky, and as I walked closer, I went down one step, and then I took 3 steps forward, and I sank into the coal. The coal was mixed with water. It was like mixed with seawater, and it looked like sand, but it was actually water. And I went down to my waist, you know, and it was almost like quicksand. Getting out of it was so difficult, and you know, with that injury and everything, it was very. And actually, I was always thought that I should put that picture in the book because it had a story, but that's actually never a reason to put an image in a book, because we get attached to a story behind a picture which doesn't justify its inclusion in an edit, you know. But I eventually I made peace, and I said I liked the picture and I wanted it to be in the story, in the flow.
So my question was, do you observe a lot or you shoot a lot?
I think this is the absolute magic of street photography. You can do whatever you want. There are days when you're in observation mode. There are days when you're in rat-a-tat shooting mode. There are days where you just walk. There are some days where you actually shouldn't even carry a camera. You know, it's not so much that it's one thing. It's definitely never one thing or another. But to me, the most important thing is repetition. You see, and I think this is a tricky question with bodies of work, of street work especially, because and this was my biggest learning about Varanasi. Look at someone like Dinesh Khanna, who's gone to Varanasi 35, 40 times in his life, right? He has a body of work. I go once and I make a zine. I try to make something, but I did it as an experiment. It was an experiment. At that time, we were in lockdown. It was dramatic. It was a dramatic place for me to visit, and I tried it. But for Bombay, it is a city I live in, and the repetition was what was important. And to go back to a place regularly, to dig deeper into a place, you know.
So street photographer Bhai is asking how to grow as a photographer.
How to grow like you have to keep shooting. But I also think there are two parts of it. One is obviously that you have to keep shooting, but you need to also consume photography, like collect photo books, you know, read the history, you know, understand. When I started, see, again, you see, it works two ways. When I started, I knew nothing. I had a lot of innocence when I began. I didn't know anything about street photography when I started my journey. But and you know, that was a lovely time because I wasn't clouded by anybody else's style. I was finding my own way, you know. And then much later, maybe after 2015, 16, was when I really started studying it much more deeply, you know. And I would buy a lot of books. Then I did workshops. I traveled. I wanted to meet my mentors, you know. I was very lucky to have a commercial business. I was doing my advertising film work, which was helping me to do other things, you know. So I made sure that I was always trying to learning, you know.
Right. So is there anything you want to say to photographers who are immature or just have started?
Who are stuck.
Who have just started photography? You want to tell anything to them?
This is one of the most beautiful journeys that you can take in your life. I feel it's such a beautiful journey, you know, and it unfolds, you know. So I think there's only one piece of advice I could give anybody, if my advice is worth anything, it's just patience, you know. Like Rilke, Rainer Maria Rilke, it's a quote on my opening page of my website, is, you know, patience is all, you know. It's the most important thing as a street photographer. And you know, this is what separates. And why is street photography interesting? Why does it become interesting? Because you make a body of work over a long period of time. It doesn't happen in a month or a year, or you know, it takes a long time, you know. And that's where I feel it has value, you know.
Yeah. True. Constant Junior is asking, what is the next book?
You know, that's where to begin? Okay, it's I still think I'm in love with the city. It's not that I'm not in love with the city, but I'm looking at the city very differently. If this is the work I've been doing in this book is very raw. It's on the street. It's black and white. The new work I'm doing is actually in color, and it's inside out. I'm shooting portraiture inside homes. I'm looking at the city from inside people's homes. I'm looking at a different city. It's the inverse of this, and it's color. And I started this project again during lockdown, I think, you know. And then I did a portraiture workshop with Rania Matar, who's an amazing Lebanese American photographer, and it pushed me so hard out of my comfort zone. You know, I'm not good with portraiture, and she taught me. I said, if I'm shooting a portrait, I have to shoot it like I'm shooting the street. She said, no, you can move something in the frame, you can adjust it, you can create the frame, you can do what you want inside the house, you know, like if you're making a portrait. So I began the journey of that particular series began with my mother and these women in Bombay who were in their 70s, who play rummy, who play mahjong, they play cards. And I wanted to start capturing their life. And in that journey, I started seeing many more things. I started it just being my mother's card group, but then it became a little more, and it became more and more people.
I love that photo.
And just getting inside homes. So even the picture I posted today, it's my best friend's birthday. I shoot a lot in her home, and there's a totally different world inside the house, you know, versus what's on the street. It's the same city, you know, but it's a completely different point of view on the city. Yes, but I'm very lazy on that project because I have to make an appointment. I have to make an appointment to meet someone. I have to make an appointment to go to their home. I have to make an appointment when they're free. You know, then I have to quickly do it. You know, and it takes. And when I'm shooting, I love it, but the joy of the street. There's nothing that beats it, you know.
Zoya Akhtar was here. I don't know if she's here or not. If you have any questions, Zoya, please ask.
I don't. She's
Is
written
the
it
opium of
properly, but
time,
got the
is
book
the
yet.
opium of time
Traveling.
available at any
Huh?
museum? Is the opium of time will be available at any gallery or museum for free reading?
I didn't hear at any gallery or museum.
Yeah. Will it be there
I'm not
available?
just literally we're a week old, not even a week, you know. So it just and literally you have to see my house. The real joy. I
You
have
can.
to, Shweta, I have to tell you, it is an incredible joy to write the label on each and every book myself. You know,
I'll give you
I have
mine.
board of my office.
I'm
Huh?
37.
Oh, you're 37. Yeah. So my signature, you can't hold me to this. My signature changes on every copy because I've signed 1,000 books.
So I would tell if somebody wants to look at the book, I can share with you.
Yeah.
So tell me about this.
So again, Shweta, I saw that lovely spread of yours on the salt pan. So you are obviously very attracted to that
I
place.
love it. I love going there. It was
It's
such a
amazing.
good.
It's just amazing. The salt pans are just, and again, but I go there maybe 100 times over 7 years,
And they
and
are sweet.
huh?
They are so sweet. They are
Oh,
from
okay.
Gujarat and
They don't care. They don't bother about you being there.
they
Nothing.
work so hard.
And that shot, Shweta, is actually on a 21 millimeter. It was a 21
Amazing.
millimeter. I was
This is
hardly. Colston used to
this
sort
is
of
a
talk about the
beautiful.
photograph. I was literally, he was sort of inches from my camera. What's the minimum focus? 0.7 meters, something like that. 0.7. That's how close I would have been to him.
I love this shot. I loved it. Like
Yeah.
it's going with the wide shot. This.
Yeah.
The angle is good. The everything is perfect. I love this color shot.
That was the 35 millimeter. That was the only 35 millimeter image, and that is, I think, my publisher Padmini's favorite photograph. I think she's made it her profile picture on her WhatsApp page.
So why you chose color for this?
Huh?
Why you chose color for this?
I think it was the skyline and the color. It was again. That was a 35 millimeter. That was 35 millimeter. There's the only 35 millimeter negative in the book. Only 35 millimeter color negative.
It's a film shot.
Yeah.
So all the color shots are film.
Yeah, my favorite color one actually is it was again a salt pan photograph, but this was in Bandung, and it was so magnificent. It was this one.
Yeah.
It was sort of, you've got those trees and then the sort of the salt pans in the foreground and modern Bombay. Oh yeah, that was at the same time. Yeah.
Beautiful shot.
Again, that was a medium format film. Yeah.
Oh wow, very nice.
There was somebody who had asked, Hani Avatramani, who I follow, whose work is amazing, asked what comes first, the idea. I think there was one sec. The photos need to have a story or a deep meaning, purely visual. There's something about ideas. I think ideas are important, but that's not at the point of shooting. That comes much later when you're curating and editing and trying to sequence. I think that's when the ideas come. I'm talking as a street photographer, I think it's very hard. I think ideas can limit you. If you go out saying, I'm only going to shoot night, or I'm only going to shoot this, or I'm going to do this, right? If you put a plan in place very early on, then I think you can limit yourself. I think the joy of what we do is that arm stretch freedom, the ability to do anything you want.
Lot of pictures are like twilight shot or early morning or late night. Why is it like that?
Well, just in a very okay. There are two answers. One is light. Light is obviously most beautiful early in the morning or sort of late afternoon, evening. I did a whole sequence in the book which is shot at night, and that was when I would have tremendous insomnia and I would walk through the streets at night. That was magnificent, a wonderful, wonderful time. But it's not like I don't think there's it's prescribed as such as like that way in the book in the Darukana. There's so many mid-afternoon shots, you know. And I actually tried this. I tried to take the rules away, and I would shoot whenever I felt like shooting. I didn't initially as well, especially, you know.
This is a perfect shot.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Yes, you know, again, like
Do you
again,
wait for the shot?
how many times I stood on that, I stood looking to take that photo about 100 times. I've gone there. And then one time this happened where he was below and she was above, you know.
What are the challenges while making this book?
Oh, they are a list so long, I wouldn't even, it would be like one whole session. But I think you may not have been on the chat earlier, but it was printing in black and white was extremely challenging. Printing in black and white, very tough. Which is your
Which is your
favorite
favorite
photogenic?
place you always like?
I love the area in Kaitwadi. Especially there's a junction there between Arab Lane where the three cinemas are, New Roshan Talkies, New Shirin Talkies. This one junction I find amazing. You know, it's a magical place. At night there's a totally different vibe. In the day it's a totally different vibe. You feel like you're in a book, you know.
I used to stay there. I used to stay that Reliance Hospital.
Yeah, that's very close by. Yeah.
Do you wait at a spot or you move around?
It depends on the day. It depends on the day. Sometimes I stay at a spot for hours, you know, and sometimes I'm just walking the whole time, you know.
So I self-published my first scene.
Honey's saying very difficult to get the right contrast in black and white. Very tough. Very, very tough. I must have done pre-processing on these images 6-7 times on different papers, and offset is completely different to digital. When you go into offset, you know, you can't see exactly what it's going to be. When we did the digital dummy, the blacks were it was a completely different feel that when we went offset. And again, we chose a paper that was an uncoated paper, so the paper is going to suck in a lot, you know. Is going to suck in a lot of the ink. So we had to make the images so bright on the computer, you know, to compensate for the paper that was going to suck in the ink, you know. Oh, thank you, Priyanka.
That's black and color film with you when shooting. See a scene, then decide which one to use.
Which?
Do you carry both black and white and color film?
No, I think when I load it up with black and white, I'm in black and white, and I'm in color. But when I'm shooting, mostly the thing is with a Hasselblad, I shoot with a Hasselblad for medium format, and I can carry 2 magazines. I can carry a black and white and a color, but mostly I would shoot in color. You know, when I was doing this work.
Why?
Hello, Jay.
Why you chose color?
Why? I wish I had a straight answer for you. I just don't. I have such a hard time answering that question. You know?
So, where is this shot?
You know, if you look at this picture carefully, to me, this was very near my house in Tardeo, and I cannot tell you. Again, each person, it was like they'd sat for me for a portrait, you know. Each person's body language, and there was such grace in these people, you know. And this was again one frame out of many, but the body language of each individual and the different cultures, you know, alive in that one picture was quite interesting to me. But you see how each person's body and there was something poetic about them, you know. There's particular, you know.
Very, very poetic. The way they are looking at you.
Yeah.
The way they are sitting, their their body language.
Again, very, very graceful, I feel.
The texture of the hand, you know, that.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, did you process it or like how it happened?
Wait.
Do you process your pictures while printing?
When you say process, you're talking about the post-production processing.
Post-processing.
I'm very antiquated. I've never used Lightroom. I don't know how to use Lightroom. It drives me crazy, right? So I do use Photoshop, and I just do basic balancing of contrast, really more than anything. Not much more than that, but for these pictures to come alive, I could not have done it. So Khurshid Poonawala, Comart, he did the final processing of the image to get it onto the printed page. So that was a totally different journey to my own processing, So the digital prints that I'll probably have if I ever do a show or I create a box set of prints, well, they'll look quite different from the book. The book has a softer, lower contrast feel. The blacks are a lot softer. And I'm very happy with that for this particular form. And this is my other belief, that I do believe these are different forms. You don't have to have the same image. It doesn't have to look the same here and here and here. And these are totally different experiences. This is my opinion. Some people may disagree, but that's my opinion.
What was your thought process to mix street and landscape while editing this book?
I think there's a sort of meditative break, like you're seeing quite, firstly, I think also just generally the pictures in my book, I don't think they're particularly noisy, right? I think they're quite quiet. And for a city that is as cacophonic as Bombay is, as chaotic as Bombay is, like even if you take this picture, which is the probably the most one of my most sort of one image that people seem to like quite a lot. This is representative of Bombay, but it's very quiet, Do you know what I mean? It's not. It doesn't feel. It doesn't feel like a noisy picture, So I feel that. So I think firstly that is to do with my state of mind. When I was my state of mind in my healing, I was in a very quiet space in my own spirit when I was making a lot of this work, and I think that quietness comes out. But the color became what I would call meditative breaks. Where you have a lot of them don't have any people in them. They're just landscape. There's just an atmosphere in them that kind of just pulls you out for a little while, and then then you go back in.
Would love to know your influences.
So when I began, there was nobody because I knew so little, and I think I was very blessed by that. I started at a time I was very lucky. So the only photographer I would have really known when I started would have been Cartier-Bresson. But then as I went into my work, I got deeper and deeper in. And then for a long time, Saul Leiter became a huge influence for a while, But it wasn't that I was Saul Leiter. But it wasn't that I was copying. I didn't start shooting like him. I mean, Alex Webb probably had the most influence on me as a style. But I was shooting in black and white. It wasn't that I then, I think it was a little later that his influence, so the color work that I did much later in my journey. So that's the other thing. This work is so early of mine in many ways. It's, I've done so much after this, which is, but this, I had to close the door on this, So there were, in many ways, there were very few influences on me when I was making this particular body of work. And I'm really grateful for that I had a certain innocence about it, So the influences came into my life much later and would have affected my editing process and how I structured the work. It was not really influencing my shooting style as such.
What is your image making process?
That's a very broad question. Is that in relation to photographing the image or processing the image, or my image making process is listening to my heart? There's nothing else.
I love this.
Now, this is my most controversial picture, and I feel a mild sense of shame, and I want to talk about that. I've talked earlier that my 96% of my, or 97% of my subjects. Ritesh is asking, what am I drinking? It's fresh lime syrup. I'm saying 90% of my subjects know that I'm there. They know I'm taking a picture. In this particular case, the door was open. I was walking past, and I stole this moment. And I don't know if it was heartbreaking. I felt voyeuristic, but there was something about the edit with this picture next to it that I liked, and I felt very. I still feel a little uncomfortable about that choice. They didn't
Why?
have control. They didn't have any control, you know. Whereas all my subjects have a relationship with me when I'm making the picture, you know, and that's very, very, very important to me, that my subject knows I'm present and knows that I'm there. I think that's pretty important to me. Oh, my
I
friend.
love this.
Yeah, again, early morning, 2019, again, going back to the same place. So this was, you know, the amazing Mahim Fair. And this was on Portra 800 negative, Kodak Portra 800. And it's such
I love
incredible,
the
no
I love
processing,
the feel of,
no
I love
post-processing.
the feel of this picture.
This was not me sort of doing some crazy tricks in post to make that color. The sky, and if you see the next page, I was shooting medium format and 4x5 at the same time, and then I was shooting with the Linhof on the next page, and I had the 4x5 at the same time. If you flip the page to the next page, those were 4x5 sheet negatives for these two, and the light was just ridiculous. It was so beautiful that morning, you know.
Where is it, Mahim?
Mahim Fair, yeah.
Mahim. So, how many times you have been to Mahim Fair?
Oh, for this book, not as many as I would have liked to. Maybe 8 or 9 times, 10 times, maybe, but not.
That's a lot.
No. Most places I've been maybe 150, 200 times.
Don't tell me.
Yeah, because see, it's over 10 years, right? So everything, and actually that's what's quite fun in the book, actually, if anyone ever gets hold of it, is the index at the back. You know, so there was I didn't caption the images because I felt the captioning would really disturb, and I was going full bleed. So we made this grid at the back, and it tells you the location and the date of the image, you know. So if you want to get any into the image, all it is the place in Bombay and the date that it was shot on.
Something that
It was dawn. Ritesh, it was dawn and the fair was closed, so I couldn't ride the Ferris wheel.
Something that I've struggled with is organizing my photos. Would love to know how you do it.
Organize. It's. I have literally I just have folders by date, and it's just every day I shoot, I make a folder, I put everything in, and it's by date. And now I've started to write where I shot on that day, because but again, these are all journey oriented things. If you have a bad system of archiving, it can be very intriguing and mysterious to reveal things to you when you're going through your archive. You go in and you don't know what you're going to find, and something comes up. If everything's perfectly labeled, you know exactly what you're going to find in whichever folder. So when you're looking back at your work from 2015 or 2016, you know that, okay, chalo, in June, it's just June, you know. So you say, okay, it must be, maybe I'll find some monsoon pictures, you know. And what happens is you go back and you don't know what you're really going to find. So it's a bit, that journey of going through your archive is a bit like shooting on the street. You never know what's going to come up, you know.
It's been an hour.
Oh my God. Ooh, Edward Theatre. Yeah.
Which theater is this?
Edward Theatre, Dobi Talao. Yeah.
Which one?
Dobi Talao, Edward Theatre.
Brilliant.
And you know, again, here it was nice because there were people, and I've seen the theatre photographed a lot, but I've also always seen it photographed quite architecturally, you know, as a space. Actually, I want to quickly talk about the wrestlers, because we never really we never really talk about the wrestlers. And I love, the reason why the wrestlers are in the book are because at the end of Arthur Road, there's a little door, and literally you go in and there's this akhada, you know, and and this is where the police exercise. This was 2000. This was 2015, I think. Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah, the hands on the wall, and they invited me. I went there in the morning, and they were all in there, and they invited me back at 4:30 to come and photograph, and it was lovely to have them. And we didn't talk. I was literally there. They would do their thing, and they allowed me to make photographs, and they were lovely. And I found out it was the police.
So, have you been to Banaras Akhada?
Yes. In fact, the opening page on my website of the two restless feet kind of intertwined, or right on the opening page of my site.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and it's such a, there's so much grace, so beautiful. Yeah.
Did she react to you, or was it how?
Yes, yes. These were the Lavani dancers. So there was the performance of Lavani at the race course. And I had given permission. I had permission to shoot, so that's why I did a lot of the night shooting at the race course. And these ladies are so elegant, so beautiful, and I spent quite a lot, one very special evening photographing their process.
Why you added race course?
It's such an iconic part of the city, you know. But then to get inside, you know. But if you go to the next page, right? This was interesting because I had done that photograph on my own in the morning, and I was at dinner with a few friends, and I showed this picture, and there were two people. There was two trainers from the race course, Subag and Shujat, and they said, "This is so beautiful. Can you please come and shoot the race course?" So they gave me carte blanche to shoot. Look at the shot. I'm inside. I'm literally inside the jockey's gate. This was with the gamblers, but there's one a little ahead where I'm actually inside the gate of the horses. I climbed up, and it was such an incredible privilege to be able to get that close. You know, is now? I'll find the picture. It was here, where it was sort of like inside the gate. You know, where they're literally about to start the race. You know. And the prayers, you know, they pray before the race, you know. So this, I thought, quite beautiful to be there, you know.
I love this.
Oh, these men! I mean, they're just classic, you know. And again, this made it into the edit very late. I'd always look at this picture, and I kept, you know what it is, Shweta? If you look at that photograph, I always felt that somebody was looking in the camera. There's one gentleman, but he's actually not. And when I realized that he's not looking, he's the gentleman with the mustache, him, but he's not. His eye is off the lens. I thought he might be looking in the camera, and that put me off, but he wasn't.
This man is looking.
Has he got eye contact? I don't think so.
I don't know. Yeah, he's looking at you.
Yeah. Okay, then. Well, I could have. Well, I didn't put.
So how was the
Huh?
in race course?
Hmm?
How was the experience of? Who is he?
He is Jangir. I can't remember his last name. He's the starter. He's the gentleman who starts the race.
Okay. He's looking a little bit like Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah.
So, what was the most challenging picture, like, of all these pictures?
I think challenging is a really strange. I think it has to be probably that monsoon image, you know, with the umbrella, like being in the rain, being against the elements, and trying to get something that was really really unusual, you know. I think that was a very extremely challenging photograph to make. You know?
What would you?
Each one has its own journey, you know. Each photograph has its own journey. Each one has its story, you know.
What do you want to tell the people who want to publish their book? Should they go for self-publishing, or should they look for a publisher? How does it?
it is a long, beautiful, difficult journey. It's not, it's not easy. It's not easy. I think self-publishing is fantastic because you get a lot of artistic control, but but I was out of my depth. At one point I realized I can't do this alone, So I had to, fortunately I'd worked with Padmini and Pictor in 2011, so I had a relationship, and I really went looking for help, that you need to guide me through these stages. But I had done a lot of the work already, but the role that she played was hugely important in bringing it back, bringing it into a final stage. So I think zines, and I think everyone should experiment with zines. They should experiment with printing small collections.
Have you seen bum books?
Hmm?
Have you seen bum books?
Bum books, no.
They are zines published by Bum. It's a brand.
But don't you think that everyone should really make their zines and print their pictures and see how?
I think everybody should print their pictures.
Yeah,
Zine, they should print their pictures.
Yeah, we just do too much on our screens, and Instagram is too. It doesn't allow an image to really get seen, to experienced,
So when are we meeting?
When are we meeting? Oh my God, when are you coming? Are you coming to Bombay? How are you, Shweta? How's your recovery been?
I'm okay. I can't exert myself. I can't lead a
I
normal.
was shocked to see when I saw that you were in hospital, and then when I found out, thank you, honey. I was in such shock, and Sigrid told me, that you were, not well, and but you've bounced back. You're smiling, and
I can't exert myself. I have to rest a lot.
Yeah. But
Resting.
you see, I've seen the pictures you've been making, the cat, people around you. You're still making the photographs. You're still making the pictures.
Yeah.
There's nothing that limits you. Nothing limits you. Nothing should ever limit you,
So I'm coming in June. I would like to meet you.
Of course we will meet. Yeah. Wonderful.
Okay, Sunhil, it's lovely talking to you.
Yeah.
And if anybody has any question, please ask. Otherwise, we are going off.
Yeah.
If you have any,
Thank you.
ask.
Thank you so much.
So I wish a lot of people buy the book.
Yeah, that'll be.
Please go to the Sunhil Sippy's Instagram and go to the link and buy the book. It would be a great connection for you.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if anybody has any question. Okay.
I think we're done.
I'll see you very soon, Sunhil.
Yeah.
It was lovely to you.
Catch up with you.
Take good care.
Yeah. Bye.